a very important gathering to make sure that we keep these leaders accountable, to make sure that we learn about climate change, we tell them about our experiences, the children also in the African continent as a whole. So it's just hearing different views. It's very important for us as children because we learn from each other. We learn different, we get different ideas and different perspectives since we are from different parts of the world.
In marking International Literacy Day today, education experts in South Africa have expressed concern that 8 out of 10 children are struggling to read. Reports say at least 730 million youths and adults worldwide lack basic literacy skills. This with 4 in 10 children failing to reach minimum reading proficiency, with governments being reminded that literacy is a fundamental human right. iSchool Africa Disability, Inclusion and Accessibility Program Manager Zuleika Gulem says South Africa is facing a crisis.
South Africa is facing a global crisis with regards to our literacy development, and unfortunately it is due to a lack of various factors such as the reduction or the lack of early identification, the lack of support in home languages, especially with regards to literacy. And unfortunately, our learners fall behind and they're not identified early enough. If a child cannot comprehend what they are reading, if they cannot communicate via written language, if they cannot communicate and understand basic literacy, it affects our economy, it affects our matric pass rate, and it really affects learners' self-esteem.
Argentina's President Javier Milei has acknowledged his party's clear defeat in elections in the country's most populous province, Buenos Aires. Milei's party lost in the centre-left by about 13 points. Speaking to supporters, he said he would double down on his liberation reforms.
Aquellas cosas en las que nos hemos equivocado, las vamos a corregir.
Those things in which we've made mistakes, we will correct them. There's no option to repeat the errors facing the future. We'll continue fiercely defending the fiscal balance. We'll continue maintaining the strong monetary restriction. We will maintain the exchange rate scheme to which we committed ourselves with the Argentines.
A recap of your top story. Malawi heads to the polls on September 16 to vote for a new leader following a 5-year period marked by economic turmoil. President Lazarus Chakwera is vying for a second term. For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I am Matapela Mahape.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Now, sport headline, Carlos Alcaraz is set to lose nearly half of his record-breaking US Open prize money. And funding cuts spark outcry as more funds goes to VAR in South African football. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Connecting Africa to the world. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni brings you the latest insights on Africa's economy.
It is exactly 9 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time. A very good Monday afternoon to you, Africa. Here's what we've got in store for you as far as business on the African continent is concerned. You will remember a while back the standoff between MultiChoice in Ghana and Ghana's Ministry of Communications. This is when the Ministry of Communications wanted MultiChoice to subsidize and cut their subscriptions by up to 30%. We'll look at interventions of intervening in this regard, as we'll be joined by South Africa's High Commissioner Designate to Ghana, Benjamin Kofi Kwashi. Also, focus on the Intra-Africa Trade Forum 2025, which is taking place in Algeria. This is where the small, medium and micro enterprises from different places around the African continent, including the Limpopo province in South Africa, small, medium and micro enterprises have gone there in order to showcase their innovation, solutions, as well as cultural creativity. We'll be talking this afternoon to Dr. Poppy Ramatuba, who is the Premier of the province. That and a whole lot more coming up for you this afternoon on Africa in Business.
Connecting Africa to the world. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni brings you the latest insights on Africa's economy.
It is exactly 10 minutes after 7 o'clock. We are going to be taking a look at some of the leading stories on the African continent as far as business is concerned. And we start off with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition in South Africa. They're engaged in talks with Algeria as well as Egypt on ways to cooperate with the country in the automotive sector. This is one sector that really has been receiving a lot of attention. And you'll remember last week we carried you a number of stories focusing on this particular sector. Minister Parkstow, who is in Algeria for the 4th Intra-African Trade Fair, led a delegation of 30 South African businesses to promote greater trade. The discussions come as the automotive industry grapples with headwinds, including the influx of cheap imports, tariffs on vehicle exports to the United States, and increases in job losses. SABC News economics reporter Nosipho Khatebe has the details on that.
Minister Parkstow says South Africa is exploring closer ties with North Africa's biggest economies to strengthen the country's strained automotive sector. This includes a proposed cross-cutting MOU to coordinate joint action.
We're also reaching out to other automotive manufacturing countries, but we thought it's important that we start there. And that would include cooperating on areas where we would be able to build component manufacturing capabilities in Algeria, where we would be able to consolidate and the extent to which we create production that is able to access the African market, but also the export market, and the extent to which we can complement each other, because sometimes we tend to compete amongst each other when in fact there are greater opportunities in identifying where we have complementarities and cooperation.
Dow says government's objective at home is to deepen the sector's value chain with the aim of raising local content in vehicle manufacturing to 65% from the current average of about 40%, with some companies operating at different levels.
We do intend to ensure that we're able to increase that level of localization. Now, the problem is industry in South Africa and other countries that are auto manufacturers say, look, if we have a situation where sister countries assemble instead of manufacture, you make it less competitive for local industry. And it undermines our component sector. So we need to find agreement on those issues. And that's what the negotiations are about.
This round of talks by the minister follows last year's state visit to Algeria, where the two countries signed multiple agreements, including one on economic cooperation. Nosipho Khatebe, SABC News, Johannesburg.
It is exactly 13 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time as we turn our focus now to Ghana. The South Africa's High Commissioner designate to Ghana, Benjamin Kofi Kwashi, has called for constructive engagement between Ghana's Ministry of Communications and MultiChoice Ghana. And this is all to resolve the standoff that ensued not too long ago. Kwashi made these comments after the MultiChoice Group rejected calls from Ghana's Minister of Communications, Technology and Innovation, Samuel Nati George, for a 30% reduction in subscription fees. He says prolonged tensions could undermine investor confidence across the sub-region, stressing that the matter could be settled through negotiations rather than public confrontation. And to discuss this further, we joined on the line this afternoon by South Africa's High Commissioner designate to Ghana, Benjamin Kofi Kwashi. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Dima, thank you so much. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I mean, you are right in the thick of things, a mediator of note. You have called for both parties to resolve this issue of subscription amicably in the boardroom. But perhaps let's start with a little bit of background of how we got here and why it's important for there to be an amicable resolution to the standoff.
Very well. Thank you very much. Greetings to your cherished listeners and viewers. I believe that when we took over as a new administration, there have been reviews that every sector minister have been asked to do with things that fall under their ministries, and in such a way that the communications minister found it that MultiChoice, as he puts it, was overpaying the Ghanaian subscriber and giving us nothing that was according to the value that they were charging us. I think that with the fourth term back, MultiChoice had made it clear that, yes, we agree we would be able to solve this, but not under the timelines that the minister gave. I believe that now that both countries have agreed, or both the two entities have agreed that we should have a boardroom resolution, we will definitely get a solution to this in the days coming.
So the premise of this and what underpins this 30% reduction in subscription is, as you say, Ghana saying that you've been overpaying, and what you've been overpaying does not equate to the services that you are receiving. Overpaying in comparison to whom, and what type of disparities have there been between what Ghana is paying and perhaps what the measure is that you use to come to this conclusion?
Very well. So in the West African sub-region where DSTV MultiChoice operates, we are told that they don't pay up to the $50 that Ghanaians have been asked to be paying every month for premium services. In the whole of West Africa, we are the highest that pays for such a subscription. And also the programming, most of the programming are those that are recorded, not live programs. And so those are the disparities that they looked at. And in comparing prices with our neighbors, Nigeria, Togo, in West Africa. Now, what has even culminated in this decision being pushed is how good the Ghanaian economy has been doing lately with the cedi, our currency being the best performing currency in the whole world. So we believe that there should be reductions, because when the cedi was fluctuating, when the cedi was quite a bad currency, so to speak, the prices were high. But now that the cedi has done well, performing better against the US dollar and all our other major currency traders, we believe that it should reflect also in the change of amounts that DSTV or MultiChoice pays. So that is where the comparison is coming from. And I want to also add that in as much as we do that comparison in the business field, there are a lot of key factors that an entity like MultiChoice will also be looking at. And I've read their communique and I see nothing wrong with it, but all I see is that there should be negotiation so that we are able to have a middle line where both parties will align to what they need to do. Nobody should go into this negotiation thinking that I have to win. We should go into this negotiation ensuring that it's a win-win for both parties. The business entities that are investing so much in the Ghanaian economy should also feel secured. They should feel that they are having value for money. And the Ghanaian consumers that watch DSTV and the MultiChoice are also able to say that whatever they are paying for, indeed, they are getting the right services.
I'd like to talk on the impact on investor confidence in just a moment. But before I move to that, what is the reasoning that was given by MultiChoice for these inflated premiums being paid by Ghana?
I've read the first communique from MultiChoice. They indicated that anti-piracy, they are making a lot of payments for this anti-piracy stuff. They are making a lot of payments to the Ghana Tourism Authority. I'm sure that there's a fee that they pay. And they also indicated in that there are certain operational costs that they couldn't put out in the public, but they indicated that those costs are what has made them to be charging the Ghanaian consumer a bit higher than any other in the West African sub-region.
One thing that you've been quite vocal about is the fact that this issue should not really be playing out in public, that this should be resolved in the boardroom, as you've stated. But what impact has this public spat had on investor confidence?
I think that every country is careful, especially I am looking at it within the context of the African, after the free trade that we have among ourselves. And I think that, investor confidence seeks to dwindle if you play such critical decisions in the public domain. Rightly so, the Honorable Minister Sam Neti George had believed, and if you ask me, the opinion in Ghana, almost everybody supports the approach that he's coming up with. Not the media banter anyway, but he asking MultiChoice to reduce their costs in terms of what they put on for their subscriptions. But the Honorable Minister, all we have said to him, which I believe that in the last communique that the National Communication Authority issued about it yesterday, they indicated that there's a team that has been formed. Both parties will present their people, and ensure that we have a boardroom discussion as to how we'll be able to do this. Because if we don't do it that way and we keep on playing it in the public domain, it dwindles investor confidence. People want to be sure that their investments are protected. People want to be sure that we don't use public sentiments to deal with trade issues. We don't use public sentiment to deal with investor confidence. And I think that as an ambassador designate to the Republic of South Africa from Ghana, I would want to see more South African businesses coming into Ghana and ensuring that they help us uplift our economy. South Africa is the highest trading partner that we have in the whole of Africa. Last year was about 1.9 billion US dollar. We cannot joke with these. These are real figures that I know that the government of Ghana is so appreciative of the South African investor communities that come to our country to invest in. So we will do everything possible to ensure that there's no mistreatment of any foreign entity into our country.
Before I let you go, High Commissioner, I'd like to find out from you what the impact of the multi-choice Canal Plus acquisition is going to be on Ghana, or is on Ghana. Could you care to comment on
that? I have shied away from commenting on that for obvious reasons. I've not seen the final takeover yet.
And what are those obvious reasons?
The obvious reasons is that in our deliberations with multi-choice, nothing has come up to do with the Canal France International or whatever that we are hoping that they are interested in taking over. I have asked questions to some of them and they said they are still working on it, so they don't have the details to share. But in any case, that should not be an issue that affects anybody. If a business wants to take over another business, why not? They can. But all I am saying and all I am praying for is that we should not let multi-choice be bitter, even if they want to exit our economy, which we don't pray for, which we believe that we would solve amicably in the days to come. It wouldn't have any effect on whatever they plan to take over, but the effect that we want to establish is that the business entity multi-choice should not be taken advantage of, and also the Ghanaian consumer, the Ghanaian person who is subscribing to their services should also not be taken advantage of. We would get to that thin line and we will solve it as diplomacy has always been.
So we thank you very much for your insight this afternoon. And as I let you go, is there any sort of indication as to when these mediations are going to be taking place?
Well, per the communique yesterday, they are going to start work as soon as possible. We were not given timelines. I believe that we will be giving timelines in the days to come. But what the minister entreated them to do was to form that committee so that they can start work as to when and how they think that we can be able to get out of this situation that we find ourselves in. But I don't think it will be long because the minister has indicated that he wants to see this done as soon as possible. And I'm sure that the committee's work has been cut out and whatever it is, we'll get to find a solution very soon.
So we thank you very much for your time and your insight. That's South Africa's High Commissioner Designate to Ghana, Mr. Benjamin Kofi Kwashi, taking us to exactly 24 minutes after 4 p.m.
In this episode of Channel Africa Conversations, Peter talks to Dr. Thulisile Buddha, an academic, author, and an expert in indigenous knowledge systems. Join us for a compelling discussion on preserving African languages and traditions in the digital era. Dr. Thulisile unpacks the role of educators, explorers, and how technologies like AI can support cultural preservation, and challenges us to rethink how we honor African heritage. You can find the episode on YouTube, SABC Plus, and on our website, channelafrica.co.za. This episode is a must-listen for educators, creators, and change makers across the continent. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Connecting Africa to the world. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni brings you the latest insights on Africa's economy.
It is exactly 25 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African Time. Now, Culture Summit Africa 2025, the first gathering of African leaders building high-performing teams through intentional organizational culture, will get underway in Johannesburg, South Africa on Wednesday this week. The two-day event will bring together HR and talent practitioners, executives, founders, thought leaders, as well as culture champions from all over the world to share insights as well as best practices for transforming workplace culture. For more on the summit, Nhlanhla Mahlangu spoke to Colin Brown, founder at Happy Sandpit and Culture Summit Africa.
Organizational culture has been on the agenda for quite a while. I personally wrote a book about 10 years ago called How to Build a Happy Sandpit, which is about organizational culture. And it was very obvious that companies in South Africa were starting to think about that more deeply. So actually, round about then, 10 years ago, I bought the URL, culturesummit.co.za. But we weren't ready to put together a full summit on that topic at that point. And we might have been ready around about 2020, but you might recall there was a pandemic which put everything on hold for a few years. So the time is now. And it's a gathering of executives, culture leaders from some of our great organizations in South Africa and elsewhere in Africa who are getting together to talk about how we can build better businesses for employees.
And what are some of the issues that will be discussed at the summit?
The things that people are battling with, the things that HR leaders, people leaders all over the country and elsewhere are battling with is this concept that we call employee engagement. It's simply this idea that companies do really, really well, great companies. We know the great companies in the world, and they do really well because they have people working for them who do more than they have to because they want to. In other words, they're engaged, they're excited by their work, by their leaders, by their customers, by the brand, whatever it might be. There's lots of different reasons that employees will engage. But when those people come to work and they do more than they have to because they want to, then you end up having a really, really great business. And culture is one of those levers that helps us to achieve that, to drive that engagement. And what we're really trying to figure out is what it is that engages people, what it is that gets them excited. When we think about culture specifically, we're talking about the way we are, the way we behave, the way we treat people, the way we treat each other, all of those sorts of things. And it's horses for courses, right? There's no one size fits all, which is what makes this topic so rich and so interesting. So we've got all sorts of leaders standing on the stage who'll be telling their version of how they induct employees, how they get principles embedded amongst a group of diverse people, how they build workspaces, all of those sorts of things that are designed to create an environment where people choose to be engaged.
Are you able to tell us who are some of the people that are expected to speak at the summit?
Traditional companies like Ocean Basket and Nando's, from South African Airways, from King Price Insurance, and from really great businesses like that. We've also got some people coming in from Constance Hotel Group in Mauritius and the National Social Security Fund in Uganda, Bank Windhoek Capricorn Group in Namibia. And all of them are sort of executives who are leading culture in their areas. So there's a whole range of different perspectives, some of our biggest organizations down to some of the smaller ones. There's great companies like DHL, for example, who'll be leading talks on that.
It is exactly 28 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time. That was Colin Brown, founder at Happy Sandpit and Culture Summit Africa. He was speaking to Channel Africa's Nhlanhla Mahlangu. In just a moment, we'll go through to the markets desk with Thabiso Lehoko, who will bring us the latest market indicators. We also have Figile Lingwati standing by with your latest sporting news. Coming up after that, our usual FNB slot, where we look at the role of artificial intelligence and how it can assist small and medium enterprises. We'll be joined by Chief Analytics Officer, Professor Yudavir Sitram. Also a look at the Intra-Africa Trade Forum and what the small and medium enterprises from Limpopo province in South Africa are hoping to achieve as they make their way and are interacting in Algiers, Algeria.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Good afternoon. In your financial indicators, at the Sawa, $1 in South Africa is trading at 17 Rand 56. In Botswana, it's at 13.31. Namibia, 17 Namibian dollars 56. And in Zambia, it's at 23 kwacha 87 to the dollar. In Kenya, the dollar will cost you 128 shilling 488. In Ethiopia, 142 birr 427. Uganda, 3,000 shilling 500. And in Tanzania, it is trading at 2,000 shilling 482. In Nigeria, the dollar is trading at 1,527 naira. In Egypt, the dollar is trading at 48 Egyptian pound 550. In Tunisia, 2 dinar 899. Algeria, 129 dinar 336. And the Moroccan dirham is trading at 857 to the US dollar. In Angola, the dollar is trading at 912 kwanza, while the Congolese franc is at 2,860 to the US dollar. Commodities markets: gold $3,620, platinum $1,393 per ounce, Brent crude oil is at $68.81 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Thabiso Lohoko.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
It has gone exactly 31 minutes after 4 p.m. Standing by with the business of sport, here is Figile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Thami. And in our sports business, we begin with tennis news. It happened over the weekend. Carlos Alcaraz added another shining trophy to his rapidly growing collection at the US Open at Arthur Ashe Stadium at the weekend. The tournament broke the record for the largest prize pool in the sport's history. This year, the total prize pool is $90 million. And so, Alcaraz will take home millions after defeating Senna. Yet, he won't get to pocket the whole amount due to tax rules. Alcaraz's $5 million prize from winning the US Open 2025 comes with significant tax deductions due to his status as a non-resident alien in the USA. That means about $1.5 million will be deducted right off the top. On top of that, New York State applies an additional tax. This could leave Alcaraz with a net amount of approximately $3 million after taxes. Despite this hefty tax bite in the USA, Alcaraz benefits from the Spain-US double taxation treaty, which ensures he won't be taxed again on the same prize money back in his home country. South Africa's Deputy Minister of Sports, Peace Mabe, found herself on the defensive this week as she tried to justify the department's decision to slash funding to sports federations and redirect resources towards the introduction of video assistant referee, the VAR technology, in South African football. Mabe acknowledged the challenges facing federations, but argued that the department's new strategy is to assist them in sourcing sponsorship instead of relying solely on government allocation of $5 million to kickstart the VAR in the Premier Soccer League.
Federations and explaining reasons why there are changes or cuts in the budget. Remember, one of the biggest roles that federations must play is to mobilize funding. So we want to also give them that responsibility, that they should be able to sustain their programs, mobilize funding, and also get partnerships. So engagements are continuing with federations.
Speaking on the sidelines of a multi-purpose sports court handover by Nedbank, Kaizer Chiefs and Sports Trust in Guatemala Springs this past week, Mabe also dispelled the notion that corporate South Africa doesn't give a lot of backing to most sports federations in the country. But facts prove a point in a different direction.
I think for the long time, corporate has never been engaged. Why do we have Nedbank here today? So I tend not to really agree with what you are saying. I think that for the longest time, corporate has never been engaged. Everywhere we go, every door that we knock, corporate, they welcome us and they really support our programs. So we would want federations to do the same.
The timing of the decision in particular contentious given that Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie has set a target of at least 300 athletes to represent South Africa at the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. Without SASCOC funding in this financial year, there are mounting questions about how crucial programs such as Operation Excellence, OPEX, which supports Olympic athletes, will be sustained. At the last Olympics, SASCOC funded 56 of the 149 athletes in the Paris Games, relying on the Bidvest-sponsored OPEX program.
I agree with you. Sports is about money. Where there's no money, there's no way that we can expect athletes to excel. And we are still committed to building the biggest Olympic teams, the biggest Olympic team. And with the new approach that we are bringing, we have no doubt that definitely we will get more athletes representing South Africa in different sporting codes as well in the next coming Olympics.
Let's wrap it up with the timing of the decision. It's really unknown. But let me tell you about golf sponsorship and money itself, where Rory McIlroy celebrated Dream Irish Open glory for the second time in his career following a dramatic playoff victory over Joachim Langengren, and also banked another healthy winner's prize money paycheck. The victory acted as perfect preparation for the Ryder Cup, where McIlroy is aiming to win his title again. Now, alongside claiming the prestigious Irish Open award, McIlroy also banked $1.2 million, with Langengren claiming the biggest purse of his career to date, taking home $660,000. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figede Ngwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628.
Você é fluente em português? É apaixonado por rádio e quer trabalhar na África do Sul? Você tem documentos que o qualificam para trabalhar na África do Sul? Nesse caso, podemos ter uma oportunidade para você trabalhar no Canal África. Envie seu currículo e demonstração para Canal África at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Lembre-se, se você não receber alguma resposta nossa em 14 dias, isso significa que você não foi selecionado. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
Stay ahead with Africa in Business, where Thami Ngubeni unpacks your go-to source for Africa's economic trends and development.
It is exactly 4:38 Central African time. Now, the chairpersons of the economic cluster in the South African Parliament earlier briefed the media on issues related to Postbank, the management and development of critical minerals, and efforts to combat illegal mining. They also highlighted government interventions to tackle the growing debt owed by organs of state to the property management trading entity. While addressing the media, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies, Kusela Diko, said the SABC is at risk of collapse.
As the Minister of Electricity, Minister Ramokgopa, they've begun taking concrete steps in this regard. These are steps we appreciate and we will hold them accountable to deliver. It's really practical, actionable solutions such as these that we're urging government to focus on. On the SABC is at a risk of collapse. It's burdened by unsustainable debt, outdated infrastructure, and a broken funding model. When we spoke about the SABC, and we said, amongst others, the withdrawing of the SABC bill is sounding a death knell on the institution. We were told we were being alarmist. Now, as we stand here today, Centec, which has its main client, the SABC, is bleeding more than 70 million rand per month to subsidize SABC's broadcast signal costs. This is unsustainable. Yet, the SABC bill, which was essential to ensuring sustainability, remains stalled in this parliament. SABC is teetering, as I said, on the brink of collapse. Jobs, livelihoods, and the sustainability of both the public and the community broadcasting sector is threatened. As a committee, we're deeply concerned by this prolonged and unnecessary delay in processing this bill. We wrote to the minister on this matter 2 weeks ago, calling for urgent action on his part to resolve the financial and operational challenges at the SABC. It's been more than 6 months. We agreed to stand down as a committee to allow him to deal with it, and not much, if anything, has been done. So we're urging the minister to once again finalize this process and not hide behind bureaucratic red tape. We're also calling on the department, DCDT, to engage the National Treasury around sustainable investment into the SABC. SABC has not had a technology or infrastructure refresh in more than a decade. They're not looking for a bailout. The SABC is not looking for a bailout. And we want to make this point clear that government has a responsibility to invest in the strategic asset and recapitalize it when necessary. So time for decisive action is now. I can hear the chairperson is intimidating me there. So I'm going to jump to the last issue. I think when you read the statement, you will come across issues relating to the post office.
That was the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee in Parliament, Khuselo Diko, for the Portfolio Committee for Communications and Digital Technologies. She takes us to exactly 4:41.
Stay ahead with Africa in Business, where Thami Ngubeni unpacks your go-to source for Africa's economic trends and development.
So we are going to take a look at the small, medium and micro enterprises. That's what we're focusing on this afternoon, and specifically those that are part of the Limpopo Economic Development Agency's Market Access Program. That's LEADER and their Market Access Program. They were in Algiers, Algeria, to showcase a diverse mix of innovation, future solutions and cultural creativity at the Intra-Africa Trade Forum 2025. The LEADER program is designed to promote trade, to unlock new markets and also to grow Limpopo's province's export footprint across the African continent. Premier Dr. Poppy Ramathuba has urged entrepreneurs to seize every networking opportunity presented at IATF 2025. The Premier joins us now on the line. A very good afternoon to you, Premier Doctor. Welcome to Africa in Business.
Afternoon to all your listeners, and thank you for inviting us to join you this afternoon.
It's always a pleasure. I'm sure you're quite used now to, the double barrel title that you have, Premier Dr. Poppy Ramathuba. But look, you've earned every single stripe of that. But maybe let's get straight into it and talk about the SMMEs that got the opportunity to showcase their business at the Intra-Africa Trade Forum 2025. How were those selected? What were the selection criteria? And ultimately, how many of them made their way through to Algeria?
Limpopo, through its Department of Economic Development, Environment and Tourism, we have our own state-owned agency, which is a LEADER, and this Economic Development Agency has got a program that it's designed to promote trade and also to unlock the markets for mostly our SMMEs. So most of these SMMEs are those that are being supported by our agencies. We provide financial support. We also assist them in drawing their business plans. And usually what would happen is that if you and our focus is mainly on the young people, it's on women, and also with people with disability, those who have been historically disadvantaged. And when we talk of economic growth, they were never part of those who will participate within the economy of our country. So now, if you remember the GNU priority, number one, it's for us to grow an inclusive economic growth. And inclusive, we are referring to these categories. So if you belong to that category and you have got an idea, an initiative to say you would want to focus, whether it's agro-processing, you write your proposal to us, you apply. And based on those criteria that we have set up, you then get selected, and then we put you as part of our programs. We help you develop your business plan. We help you to access funding. We can sometimes give you startup. We do put on an annual base a budget mainly to fund those. So those are the SMMEs that you see us taking along to Algeria, is that when there is any mission, for instance, if you remember, just last month in August, there was a trade fair post in Namibia. Yeah, the trade fair in Namibia. We went there with 10 SMMEs who were also coming from our program. And they are different from the ones that were selected this time. This time around, when we went to Namibia, they were funded by SEPSA, and now they are funded. We assisted them to apply for funding from our DTIC, and we appreciate that they were funded by DTIC. So basically, we do have a long list of SMMEs that are funded by us. So when there are opportunities like that, and there is a criteria that is developed, we will then, amongst all of them, ask those who qualify to apply, and we assist them to get the funding to attend and showcase all what they are, the products that they are manufacturing.
And how important is it, Premier, for small, medium and micro enterprises to be presented with such opportunities? And I wonder if there are any positive case studies maybe that you can share of businesses that have participated in similar opportunities that have managed to leverage that opportunity to scale.
We do have. We do have, though you would understand that these programs, some of them we have just initiatives that we have just come up with. But if you look at those that we have supported, because we always take stock, whether it's in agro processing, maybe let me start with others who have started small. There's a lady we were with in Namibia. She's a young woman. She saw an opportunity. She comes from an area called Njere, where she saws everybody. Each and every household has a number of mango trees, and mangoes are being just wasted. But she knows all of us what people around there love aja, and we don't even know where it's coming from. And there were a lot of stories, the acha that they would buy from the local spaza shop. Then last year she developed her own proposal. She brought it to say this is what she wants, and this is how the acha will be different from the others. And she was then given a startup. So what she does, fellow young unemployed people, their job is to go from one household to another, picking up those green mangoes, supplying her, then they will get a stipend from her. Even though they will be seasonal workers, but they are getting something, from her. And there's another one who saw, mashonja.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you, because other people call them mupani worms, and here in our province, we reject that name. Those are not worms, those are high protein diet. So we call them mashonja, or we can call them mupani shrimps. That's what we always say you can. So they saw that opportunity to say, being rich in proteins and also helps you with energy, why don't we make an energy bar out of them? And they make that proposal to us, and then to leader, and they were funded, and then they started making the protein bar, which now they are selling. We were with them. Their product is growing up. They are now getting other shops, retail shops, to put up their products. So even athletes, those who go to exercise, they carry those lunch bars to give them the energy. So those are the stories that we can tell. If you look at, they might appear small, but I can tell you the work that they've done. There is also another young lady
I
who
must
works
say,
with leather.
unfortunately, our time doesn't allow us, Premier. But what I really love about the examples that you've pointed out is the products that are being manufactured by these entrepreneurs are products that are almost innate to Limpopo. You'll find the Mopani shrimps, as you call them, and I'll use the word shrimps just to please you here, Premier. Mopani shrimps and the acha, all of that just grows indigenously in Limpopo. So it's really entrepreneurs looking around in their own environment and using what's readily available to be innovative and to create products that people are actually already consuming, but also finding new ways of repackaging what has always been, staple foods, so to speak. So we thank you so much for your time this afternoon and wish you all the best with the entrepreneurial exploits that are being done in Limpopo as far as the Limpopo Economic Development Agency is concerned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's Premier Dr. Poppy Ramathuba there, calling Mopane worms, Mopane shrimps. And I'm sure if you go into the dictionary, and I'm really saying this because if you do Google Mopani shrimps, you may not find anything because that's a word that was probably coined by the minister and the community. But hey, I may be wrong, but if you Google Mopani worms, you'll most definitely find something. And that will give you an idea of the type of products that are actually being used in Limpopo, a staple food in the province being repurposed into energy bars. For example, who would have thought of that? Totally genius. It's exactly 9 minutes to 5 p.m.
In this episode of Channel Africa Conversations, Peter talks to Dr. Thulisile Buda, an academic, author, and an expert in indigenous knowledge systems. Join us for a compelling discussion on preserving African languages and traditions in the digital era. Dr. Thulisile unpacks the role of educators, explorers, and how technologies like AI can support cultural preservation and challenges us to rethink how we honor African heritage. You can find the episode on YouTube, SABC Plus, and on our website, channelafrica.co.za. This episode is a must-listen for educators, creators, and change makers across the continent. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Connecting Africa to the world. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni brings you the latest insights on Africa's economy.
It is exactly 4:52 Central African time. It is our weekly slot with First National Bank. And this week we take a look at the role that artificial intelligence can play in assisting small, medium enterprises. Those are SMEs. For more on this, we're joined by Professor Yudhvir Sitharam, Chief Analytics Officer for FNB Commercial. A very good afternoon to you, Prof. Welcome to Africa in Business.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
So the first question really is, there's always a lot of talk about artificial intelligence and how small, medium enterprises need to adopt this new technology in order to be more competitive and to really keep up with the times. But can we get more specific as far as this is concerned, Prof? How can artificial intelligence help SMEs?
The best way to think about it is always on, number one, the optimization side when it comes to cost. How can I use AI to go and lower my cost? And then number two, how can I use AI to improve on my revenue? Typically, SMEs start off with the revenue side without actually first going to lowering costs. And the reason why I say it like that is we need to take what's mundane, try to automate it, so like our repetitive tasks, in order to free up time for us to really do what we're meant to be doing as entrepreneurs, aka using our creativity to try to market our products to the right clientele, to be able to build trust in those relationships with our clients.
And in this modern day where technology is at the forefront, many would ask, do people still matter for business, especially when you see technology taking over what was traditionally the task of human beings?
There we go. It's the same type of hesitation we had with cell phones, right? Moving from like a manual telephone that was hanging on the wall to now walking wherever we need to with our phone in our hands, or even like AirPods. The use of AI is not meant to replace that human element which comprises of trust, which takes time, comprises of building relationships, which is something that a robot cannot simply do. Business is about generating trust with whoever you are dealing with. Your artificial intelligence can help you be more productive, so to get your notes ready, your content ready, etc. But it still relies on you as the entrepreneur, as the business owner, to be able to go and engage with your clients, to be able to do the selling, to be able to do the upselling with them. It cannot be replaced by a bot.
So where then does a bot come in? Because I know personally, the moment my phone rings, I pick it up and I hear an automated voice on the other end. I simply hang up because I do not want to be interacting with any bot.
There we go. So that's a good example of using artificial intelligence to figure out when is the right time to go and contact customers, but also the number two, what is the right method of communicating. So use AI to figure out the right customer, the right time, the right offering that you want to go and make, even the right type of phrasing, but then rely then on the actual human being behind the scenes to actually do that engaging and cross-selling with the customer. Bots typically are good at making our lives more productive. As an example, I'm not going to wake up and spend, let's say, half an hour going through my calendar. I would rather get like a 5-second type of summary of what my day looks like and how I can prepare for it, versus using a bot like the example you mentioned. We jump a lot to the revenue without first trying to go into the actual optimizations. So that Outlook example, the calendar example I gave you, is about using
l'avantage d'abord au Congo, du Congo qui joue à domicile, mais toujours est-il qu'il faut faire attention parce que le Sénégal reste le Sénégal. On voit également le classement du groupe aujourd'hui, on sait que le
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's Professor Yudhvir Setram, Chief Analytics Officer for F&B Commercial. My apologies there. We seem to have a cross line and a feed coming in from another station. We don't know which one, but who knows? Maybe we had some sort of artificial intelligence invasion there in the midst of our AI conversation. But certainly a very interesting topic. And I think it's important for every business owner to decide, how do you strike a balance? At which points do you allow AI to take over the tasks that were traditionally performed by human beings? Because the last thing you want to do is to alienate your customer. But it's really about finding that balance. A lot can be done with AI, as he said. Well, that's where we're going to leave it for this Monday edition of Africa in Business as we segue into Vue d'Afrique avec Joël. A very good morning to you, lovely in pink. It's afternoon, right? I guess
Good afternoon, Thami.
I'm still feeling very fresh. Do excuse me.
I understand you. Merci. Bonjour à tous les auditeurs de Channel Africa. Sur Vue d'Afrique, on parlera de l'ouverture ce lundi en Éthiopie des travaux du 2e sommet africain et aussi du Niger, où un nouveau groupe d'opposition composé d'acteurs de la société civile, entre autres, exige le retour à l'ordre constitutionnel notamment, mais aussi de la montée de la tension, entre l'Égypte et l'Éthiopie. C'est tout à l'heure sur Vue d'Afrique. Merci de rester connecté. Merci, Thami.
Merci beaucoup, Joël. It is exactly 2 minutes to 5 o'clock. Thank you so much to our amazing team here at Africa in Business. Matapelo Mahape on the news, Tabiso Lehoko on the economics desk, sporting desk, Figile Lingwati, our producer Mabu Boloka, and on social media we have talent Butelezi, and also on our technical producer desk, Francis Masina. I'm Thami Ngubeni. This has been Africa in Business on Channel Africa. You have yourself a splendid evening further and do stay tuned to Vue d'Afrique.